Welcome, everyone. So we are going to look at first thing, what we have done in the last week, do a quick review, and then we will look at today's topic. So let's do a quick review. So in the last class, we started with the hands-on lab. We loaded a sample data, and then we saw that if anything changes with your file, if you move your file location, or if you actually change the file name, then Power BI still has the data. It's loaded or cached right in your file. But if you want to update that later on, your file might change at some point, then the connection between Power BI and the file is lost, right? So if you have noticed in SharePoint, if you use SharePoint Online, if you change a file name and you have a file link, your link still works because your link doesn't have the file name, your or location. Link actually has some hash ID. So because of that, as long as you don't remove the file from SharePoint, if you change the file name or even file location, that link will work. Okay, it will take you to the right place. But for Power BI, it doesn't work the same way. If you change the file name or you change the location, Power BI doesn't know what the file is. Or even if in the same folder, if you change the file name, Power BI doesn't know. So when you load a file, Power BI will actually extract all the data, put that into the Power BI file, but also have a connection to the original file. But if original file location changes or name changes, you still have the data in Power BI, but you don't know, the live information is lost. So we tried that, and we actually tried to refresh the data in Power BI, and then we changed the data file, and then we also, refreshed it. So as long as your pointer is fine, it's going to work. If the pointer is not fine, it's not going to work. So this is a very important topic. If you ever take the Power BI certification exam, you might get a question from this topic. The next lab that we have done in the last class, we loaded a sample data. So we loaded actually the updated data set. And then we created a world map. We projected total sales by country. We formatted some of the map properties. There are lots of detailed properties. You can change colors. You can change, bubble size and all these. And then we published the dashboard. Okay, so we created a dashboard, we published it, and then we saved the file. And then the third lab we did in the last class was, we added a slicer. So we used the same dashboard and with the map, and then we created one slicer. And that slicer actually will tell us, how we can maybe look at a specific month, maybe look at a specific salesperson, maybe look at something specific. So this is the beauty of Power BI. As soon as you add the slicer and you start clicking on the slicer, all the data will be filtered based on the slicer. Okay, so if you had a slicer in Power BI, as soon as you click on the slicer, all the reports in your dashboard that you are looking at will be filtered based on that slicer. Okay, so it is by default, it is how it's going to work. And then we are also going to look at, if you add more than one slicer, okay, you can add two slicer or three slicer, and you can filter by multiple slicers. So if you have one slicer and you click on a month, it will show you everything for that month. And then let's say you have another slicer with a salesperson, and you click on that specific salesperson, it will show now for that specific month for that specific salesperson. So you can add another slicer. For example, you can add a country. So it will say month, salesperson, and country. Now, the more slicers you add, there is a possibility that for that month, for that salesperson, for that country, there was no sale, right? In that case, what's going to happen? Anyone? If you click on a slicer that doesn't have any, it doesn't have any data, what's going to show? Is it going to show an error or is it going to show something else? Fayez, what do you think is going to happen if your slicer doesn't have any data?
It won't work. I don't know.
It's going to show you blank. Okay. There will be no error. It will just show you that there is nothing for the slicer. Okay. So very simple, right? Slicer is one of the very, versatile feature of Power BI. Okay. Power BI will not give you error, okay, in most of the cases. It hardly ever gives you error. It is very much, it runs on autopilot almost. So you just have to, tell it what to do. But that's why when you add multiple slicers and your slicers don't have data, no problem. It's just not going to show you anything. All right. So these are the three things we have done in the last class. Now, in this class today, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually expand our slicer. And for this exercise, for this lab today, okay, the first lab we're going to do is we're going to load the same data, wildcard sales data. We're going to create a world map, which is already done in the, in class 2. And then we're going to add the second slicer. Okay. And, that second slicer could be, if we already had month, could be salesperson. If you already had salesperson, could be month, could be country. The slicer could be almost anything, any data point. And then we're going to explore the data results. And then we're going to format some of the slicer properties. We're going to look at some of the formatting options. And then we're going to publish the dashboard. So in order to do this, I already have done it. And if I just show you after you do what it will look like. So I'm opening up the Power BI file. All right. And if I go into my dashboard, so if I look at my dashboard view, my report view, you're going to see that I initially had a slicer for salesperson, and then I'm going to have another slicer for month. Okay, so, and then, I want to show some additional information. Looks like my map had some error. Okay, we're gonna look at all of that. Okay, so when I finish this, this is what it will look like. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my previous, the lab 3 and start from that, because in the lab 3 we only created one slicer. So I'm gonna go in here, Control V. So this is going to be class 3, lab 1. And what are we doing in this lab? We are actually creating our second slicer. So let's look at our file that we worked on in the previous class. So I'm opening it up. And I'm going to hope that my data is going to load. If it doesn't load, no worries, we can quickly create that. So it is loading everything. Okay, now it is loading my dashboard. And you can see that, there is a slight error here. It has, what does it say? Map and field map visuals are disabled. To enable them, go to File, Options, Settings, Options, Global, Security, and see details. All right, it seems like some kind of issue with the setting of my Windows. So last time it didn't happen. Actually, it never happened before. But these kind of situations you might run into, if you work with Windows, specifically Microsoft products. So we're going to go to File, Options and Settings, Options, Global Security. So go to File, Options and Settings, into Options, and then Global, and then Security. Okay, let's go to Global, and then, okay, I'm in the Global Security. Okay, here, new native database, basic check. Okay, what does it say? So in the security, ArcGIS for Power BI, okay, I'm going to say use map and field map visuals, okay. I think these are the all the stuff with maps. So I don't know how it was working before without that, but it seems like see details, map and field map visuals are disabled. So I actually enable them. So what I'm going to do is just close them one more time and then open it up and see what happens. So some setting, I haven't made any change to any settings, but it seems like some settings are causing this issue. And you might run into the similar type of issues as well. And we're just trying to, go through the error. Does anybody else have this error with the map? Let it load. All right, I'm here. It's loading my
I
queries.
got the error first which says that map file
You are
is
getting the same error?
it's getting that say the map file is disabled, so it's
I
not
see, yeah.
coming.
So I believe after I change the setting, and then I had to actually close my Power BI and open the Power BI again. And this is another, another something that you might face with Windows. Then it has started to work now, right? So the error was pretty self-explanatory, right? But now it's resolved. So if you get the same error, what you have to do is fix it, enable ArcGIS and the field map, and then you need to actually close the file and then open the file again. All right, so now it's resolved. All right, so what we are planning to do here is we have one slicer and we are going to actually add a second slicer. All right, so for our exercise purpose, if I add a second slicer right now, what I'm going to see is that, it's going to take a lot of space. And it will have maybe different countries, different salesperson. So what I'm going to do here is, just for the sake of the exercise, I'm going to actually not take all of these salesperson, all the 20 salesperson. I'm going to only select maybe 5 of them. So in order to do that, what I do is go in here, into the options, and do some filter. So here, for example, all of my salesperson are here. So I can actually do a filter, and I can do a basic filtering. I can do an advanced filtering. In advanced filtering, I can put some options like, that they are, the value contains something, does not contain something, start with something. So, I can actually filter by their names because all these are names. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a basic, filtering, and say, basic filtering, and say I'm going to actually take maybe, a few, maybe the salesperson who had, the most amount of sales. Let's say I'm going to take probably, every, okay, above 50. And then I'm going to go and see if I, find anybody else above 50. Grace, okay. And then I'm going to see Lucas, 50 or above. So these are the ones. So now I'm going to take maybe a few more. Let's say 49, Abigail. And then maybe, maybe 47. Okay. And then maybe 45. Okay, so I'm just randomly selecting a few. That's all I'm doing. So 45, all right. And that's it. Okay, I don't want any more. So I actually selected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 salespeople. And then, you have some option here, require single selection. You can actually enable that. If you do that, then it's now, it is now going back to the same selection. So I'm just gonna go back and do the same thing. Let's say I just select, any random 6. Okay. And then there is option to actually have, show the select all as well. We'll do that later on. So here we actually selected 6. And now that we have more space, we can actually start shrinking it. So make it small, maybe make it half. And then now we can bring in another slicer. Let's say another slicer. Oh, where is the slicer? Multi-row card, KPI, slicer. So we're going to bring another slicer here. And this slicer, let's say, let's format it a little bit. Okay, for this slicer, let's say we want to bring in, what do you want to bring in? Anybody has any preference? These are all the data fields. Which field do you want to bring in? Anyone have any choice? So one thing is for slicers, we can bring in dates.
We can do probably the product.
Product. Okay, let's do that. So one thing I was saying is for slicer, okay, is good to do like dates, like year, quarter, month, day. Okay, fine. It's good to do country. But when you see the sum sign, okay, it's not a good idea to do for the slicer, okay, because this slicer that I'm showing you, we are actually doing it for, it is a discrete slicer. But if we want to do like a, sliding slicer, like, you can actually put like, $543,000, right? For that case, you can actually bring in those slicers. But for these categorical slicers, we want to have mostly, these slicers. So I'm going to bring in actually product. Okay, so now when I do product, now you see the same thing, like there are so many products, right? So we might want to apply some filtering on these products as well. So let's see what filtering we have available. So we actually have, actually Abby is selected. So we're going to unselect Abby. Now we can see, going back here, okay, now we can see the different products and their sales. So we're going to select a few, maybe AirPod. We're going to select like, 6, 48, maybe 47, 47, 47. Okay. So we are actually going to select a few. And so we just selected 6. Okay, fine. We selected 6. So now they are here, but they don't look the same way as the left-hand side. So we can actually change to our, slicer settings. We have vertical list. We can actually have tile. We can have drop down. There are many different ways. There are actually 3 ways we can do. We're going to do tile. Okay. And then, we might or might not have the header. It's good to have the header, so you know what you're looking at. We can look at the values. Okay. We can actually here change padding, font color, border, all these things. Let's say, we want to change the font color to red. We can do that. We can actually change the background, to maybe, this color. So there are, so many options that you have. Really, you can do a lot of customization. All right. So now we added the second slicer, and, if we save it, if we just, click on Apple AirTag, it will show you, the sale of Apple AirTag. And then if we click on Abigail, now, it will show like how much did Abigail actually sell for Apple AirTag. And total Abigail sale resulted for the whole year, 115 boxes were sold. Okay. So now you can actually see. If you select more, maybe Abigail and Avery, how much did they sell? Oh, so these are actually all, let's see, for this one, we actually did not do the single selection. So yeah, you can actually select each one. All right. Any questions, anyone? Now, filtering, because this is a basic class, I'm not going much more details into filtering. If you actually click on, data fields, you can bring in data fields. You can actually filter by many different ways. Okay. You can actually filter, do basic filter, do top in, you can actually have top or bottom. Okay. And there are many ways that you can do filtering. So you can look up advanced filtering, but here, we just use some of the basic filtering. Any questions? Now, let's deploy this. Let's publish this and see what it looks like. Save. Okay. Email. Did anyone try publishing with your free account? If you have a Microsoft account, try that. You might be able to publish for free. So I need a verification in here. All right, let me actually log in. So it is actually trying to publish in my workspace. Select. All right, publishing. Once we publish, I'll just show you how it looks like in a web portal. All right. Oh, it's asking for the same verification again. Okay. Give me 1 second. All right. So I'm doing the verification again, and now it's loading my page. All right. So it loaded the data, loaded my report. So this is what it looks like. All right. So if I actually click on different products, click on different salesperson, it will show me the results. All right. Simple and easy, right? And if you look at in here, actually, when you have access to the web, if you are logged in as an admin, you can actually see the same view, and you can actually even, change your how it will look like, in mobile view and other things as well. All right. So yeah, you can actually create a mobile layout. So auto create mobile layout, this is what it will look like in a mobile view. All right. And if you can actually make some changes, you can change fonts and other things. All right. So again, this is what it will look like. All right. Any questions, anyone, about this lab? So all we did is added an additional slicer and then looked at some of the slicer properties. All right. And then we published it. Any questions? Okay, now we're going to switch gear. So far, can anyone tell me what kind of file we have loaded until now? What kind of data file did we load in Power BI?
Any example? You mean what kind means? It's like an Excel file, right?
Yeah, Excel or CSV, right? These are the type of files that we have loaded. And yeah, so that's right. So that's what you are probably going to do in most cases. Okay. You're going to have a CSV file or you're going to be connecting with the database, right? But there might be scenarios or situations when you're not going to be loading data from a CSV file or an Excel file or maybe some other type of file. Power BI has a very cool feature that will let you load file from many different sources. So let's go in the Power BI. I'm actually going to start like a brand new file and show you how to do it from the scratch. So I'm actually going to Power BI desktop, just opening up a new file, and I'm going to save it in this folder as my second one. So it's opening Power BI. Okay, and opening like a brand new file. I'm actually going to close this one. And now it's opening a brand new Power BI file. Okay. So if you actually go into Power BI, you're going to see from the first screen, you have option to load from Excel, SQL Server, sample data. And then if you say get data from other sources, there are actually many other, options as well. Like for example, you can actually load from text, XML, JSON, folder, PDF file, Parquet, SharePoint folder, so many Access database, IBM DB2 database, Oracle database, you know, uh, SAP HANA, Teradata, CBase. There are many. I mean, you think about it, there are so many types of data set, that you can connect to. So for that, this is one of the reason why Power BI is so popular, because it will let you connect to almost any type of data that you can think about, Power Platform, Azure, online services, and others. Okay, many. All right. So because it's not possible for us to actually do all of these, I'm going to show you one, which is a web page. So you can actually load data from a web page, and I'm going to show you one of these web pages. All right, so you can actually search here, web. So you have web. Okay, so this is going to be a regular website that you can load data from. So okay, we're going to load data from a website. Okay, but let me go first to and talk about the site that we're going to load. So I have a example site for you, which is called Global GDP by uh, Global GDP. So when you go to Global GDP, there are different sources and I'm going to say Wikipedia. So here we can actually look at global GDP PPP, which is actually, adjusted for the, purchasing power parity. So, the dollar value is adjusted. Okay, so this is the site. This is a sample web page that we're going to work with. So think about this. We have a web page and then we have Power BI. We're actually going to connect the two, right? Cool stuff. And what kind of data is this? Is it structured, unstructured, semi-structured? What do you think? You remember in the first class we talked about, structured, unstructured, semi-structured data. What do you think is this?
Is it like semi-structure?
Yeah, it is semi-structured. If it had like, you can also call it unstructured because it has text, right? It has images, it has all, different type of things. So we can call it semi-structured because, what we are looking at here is kind of semi-structured. And if it had like, maybe YouTube video, right? Or sound bites or other types of objects, then we can call it, unstructured. But for now, yeah, I think this is, we can actually call it semi-structured. All right, good. So this is the site that we're going to use. And our particular interest is this table. Okay. And what we are going to do is we're going to look at, if you actually click on country or territory. So what this one has, if you look at this table has starting from Afghanistan, A, up to maybe Zimbabwe, and then there are more, right? Yeah, Zimbabwe, right? 196 countries are listed here. And you're going to see that out of the 196 countries, there are actually more because it has the world, and then it also has countries that are actually not named. Do you know why this is not named? Because it is a territory of France, right? Yeah, it's a French island. So because of that, it is not marked as an individual country, but there is one organization, CIA is actually listing it and forecasting it. IMF and World Bank is not doing it. All right. And there are other examples. So there are US Virgin Islands, for example. CIA is going to treat that as an entity. World Bank is going to treat that as an entity, but IMF is not going to treat that as an entity. IMF treats it as US. Same thing with Turks and Cocos Island and other countries. So we have some issue in this data. This data is actually not the most easy to use data, but we are actually going to start working with this data. And what we are going to show afterwards, top 25 countries based on their, let's say, World Bank, estimate. Okay, so we can select either estimate, IMF estimate, World Bank estimate, CIA estimate. So we're actually going to select the top 25 countries based on their World Bank estimate. All right, so we're going to do that. And we can do other filterings too. So for that, I have a brand new file. And when I go in here, I'm going to say web. So I'm going to get data from web and say connect. So when you do that, it asks you for the website. So I'm going to go in here, copy this website address as easy as it is and say paste it here. Now there are some advanced options. You might want to give some timeout time and other things. For now, we don't have to worry about that. And you're going to see working with web page can be challenging sometimes. You might get some timeout and other errors, and you have to work through that because it is connecting a semi-structured data set with this file. So we're going to click on OK. Now what this is doing is Power BI is actually looking at this page and it started to get more information. So We have all these things, everything is configured, and we just say connect. So now you're going to see it is actually connecting. Okay. First time when I did that, I got an error. And then I clicked refresh and it started to work. But it seems like here, it is actually fetching the information. So it is actually now going to that Wikipedia page and it found all these different things. So now, I can tell that this is going to be most likely the table that I was talking about, but I don't know. So in this case, what you can do is you can actually start clicking on them. You can click on table 1, it will show you what is table 1. It was, that page has many tables. Some of the tables we don't even see. So you can either look at the table view or look at the web view. So this is the table that it's showing you, right? Okay. This one is this table that we were actually looking at, right? All these countries. Okay. Now look at some more tables. This table is actually something else. So we are doing some examination of that page and see what kind of information is it pulling. So it looks like pretty good. It's Power BI is going into this page and looking at, so these are the suggested tables. And then we have also HTML code and the display text. So, many options. So this is the table that we have, most of the information that we are looking at. It is actually sorted by this column, right? You see world is the highest and then China and all these. And let's say this is the table that we are looking at. So we're going to say, okay, fine, load. So when we click on load now, actually Power BI is going and it is loading that page. So, and the data. So it is actually taking that table, this table, formatting it in its own structure. And then, so if you look at this one, it kind of looks like this. This is how it was looking like, and it is actually ingesting it. And when it's done ingesting, we see this one. So here now, if you look at this table, it doesn't look very much like what we were interested in, right? Or what we are looking at. Did our table's column header set column 2, column 3, column 4? No. Right? What did our table say in the web page? Our table had pretty good column headers and all these things, right? Very nicely formatted. But when you look at this one, it is kind of messy, right? And most of the time, this is what you're going to face with, because it took the structure that the web page had, and then it transformed it to the PowerPoint, it's a machine understanding or machine language, and then, converted it to Power BI. And this is what Power BI looks like, right? So we can now start working with it and clean it. And we're going to start, in order to do that, we're going to go to home and click on transform data. And then we're going to go to transform data. So now we can actually start working with this data and start cleaning it. When I showed you the previous examples, we actually had some pretty good cleaned up data. So, most of the examples we worked on, we created visualization. But in this case, it looks like the data is not very clean. So we're going to start cleaning up some of the data, transforming some of the data. And this is also a big part of Power BI. All right. We show visualization, but this transformation and cleaning is very needed before we can actually get to that. So for messy data, this is what we're going to do first. So here, look at this. IMF and forecast, IMF and year, World Bank and estimate, World Bank and year. Go back to our web page. You can see IMF forecast, IMF year. So what it did is it actually broke this down and said IMF forecast, IMF here, World Bank estimate, World Bank here, right? So it actually broke things down. And that's what we have here. So what we can do here is we can do two things. Number one, we can start naming these columns. In order to rename a column, instead of column 2 or column 3, all we need to do is, just click on this name and start typing the column name. All right, so that's all we can do. But I'm going to do something even better, which is let's remember the first two columns are IMF, second two columns are World Bank, and the last two columns are CIA, right? So what we are going to do is we are actually going to get rid of this first row, and then this row that we have, we're gonna name that to our column headers, and we'll see how to do it. So first we're gonna get rid of this row. If you want to get rid of a row, you go to Home, in the transformation, remove rows, okay, remove top rows, and it will tell you how many rows do you want to remove. I'm going to say I want to remove one row. So if you say that top one row, this row is removed. All right. Now, okay, we have forecast year, estimate year, and estimate and year. Okay. Now there is another cool feature, which is, see all these names? I can actually now go in here and start typing forecast, year, column, all these things. Instead of doing that, there is a cool feature in Power BI which says make my first row as my column names. Okay, so use first row as headers. Okay, or you can use headers such as first row. You can actually do both. So we can actually use our first row as headers. And say, okay, yes. And you see that everything kind of got shifted one up, right? And then now we have forecast, year, estimate, year one, estimate two, because it cannot make the same column name. So we're gonna go back to our web page and say this is IMF. Okay, so we can actually now change it to IMF forecast. And this one we're gonna say IMF year. This is my World Bank estimate. So we're gonna just call it WB, just to shorten it. And this is actually World Bank here. WB, and this is actually CIA estimate. And the last one is the CIA year. All right, so now if you see, my data looks much cleaner, right? Much cleaner, but not cleaned yet. My data still has some problem. Because, one thing, I'm looking at the countries individually. I actually don't need the world. This is just going to mess up my data because this is going to become one of the top 25 countries, which I don't want. Therefore, I'm going to get rid of this row as well. So I'm going to say remove rows, remove top rows, and just say top one row. And I just removed. Okay. Notice something. All along that I have been doing this, there is a right-hand side of this screen. It is actually showing you these steps. It's almost like, when you do something in Excel or Word and you hit Control Z, right? So here, same way. If I actually had, let's say, I remove my top row, right? If I undo it, I just click on this. Now you see this top row is showing up, world is showing up. If I, remove columns was the last thing. If I remove this row, remove rows, remove top rows, and I say 1, and I do OK. Now you see that this one step showed up. Actually, so all the steps that you are doing is almost like, writing code. They are all here. And when you actually click on the save and close and transformation, these all will be saved with the transformation. All right. So pretty neat. Okay. So everybody understand? Does anyone have any question, based on what I just talked about? I'm going to save this thing right now. More options. Any questions, anyone? What I have just done? Column 1, I'm going to make the name change to and say country. Okay, country, right? Okay. If you look at, do a quick inspection of the column 1, yeah, we see we have countries and then we have spaces where there is, blank. Okay, so we're going to address them in a bit. Okay. So I'm doing a lot of data cleanup, right? And that is a part of what we have to do using Power BI. Let me save this file quickly. This is our lab 2. I don't want to lose this file. That's why I'm just saving it. Lab 2. And just say save. All right. We can say apply later or apply, doesn't matter. It's just going to save my progress. So if I quit this file for some reason, it will be saved until here, until this query. Okay. There are some problems still I see here. Can anybody see what is some of the problems here with the year? Anyone see any problem in this year column or in this year column? Any problem with this column? Do you see N1, N2? So if we go back to the web page, you see N2 right here, right? N2 is actually a reference. If you click on that, it is one of the references here at the bottom, reference number 2. Because this table got directly translated into Power BI, took all the stuff that is in the table. So N2 link didn't get transferred over, but N-1 is here. So this is not same as 2025. It is different. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and say replace values. So here, it selects that wherever we say N dash or N space 1, we're going to replace that with nothing and say OK. So if you do that, all the N-1 got replaced in this column. But this column has even more, N-6, right? So there are more. So if I go in here and say replace values, N-6, whatever it is, say OK. Okay. And probably more. Okay. If you actually filter IMF here, there are more. So if we go back to this, there are some blanks. Okay. So if we just go back here, N11, N3, N7, N8, N9, there are multiple. Okay. So yeah, we can actually start replacing this. N3, we're going to replace that with nothing. N7, we're going to replace that with blank. If we don't do that, what is the problem? Anyone? Then this is actually not a year, right? It is considered like something else. Replace values. Okay, and then the last one here, replace values. And you can see that every time it is actually adding a step, right? Okay, and the same thing in all here too. In 3, every time you try to do this, it does it for a specific column. You can also look at some advanced options. Okay. Okay. And 9. And then N11. So, I'm just doing all this to be neat and clean, but, again, you can decide how you want to do. All right. So now, if I go back to my filter, what is my filter? Where did I do my filtering? In this one, right? Select all. No, not this one. 2023. All these countries are selected. Okay. All these values are selected. IMF year. Actually, filtered row. All right. So now I actually undid that. So I got the filter back. Okay, there are some more. Again, you can clean them up as you like. Okay, so now we have our forecast, our year for the 3 organizations, right? So what I want to do is I want to have the top 25 countries, and then I don't want rest of them. And I just want to have top 25 countries for IMF. So how do you get rid of a column? I want to get rid of WB estimate, WB year, CI estimate, and CIA year. All right. So let's do that. So there is an option here, remove columns. And if I just click on, remove columns, are you sure you want to insert a step? Actually, the reason why it's telling me is because I have the selected here. I need to go back to the end. Otherwise, it's going to start giving me the same error. So I'm just going to say remove column and remove columns. So remove these columns. Okay, so you see those columns have been removed. If I just, undo this, these columns are going to show back, right? So again, if I undo this, the columns are back now, but I'm going to show you, just how to remove them. You control and click on their names and then click on remove columns, and then you're removing the columns. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select the year 2025. And in the year 2025, I'm going to actually keep the top 25 rows. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort these by large to small. Oh, something I forgot to tell you, which is the data type. Right now, this IMF year is considered like a text field. IMF forecast is also considered like a text field, which is actually not good because we are not working with text. we are working with numbers. So you can actually quickly do that. Country text field is fine. IMF forecast, we click on that, that icon, and this is actually fixed decimal number. This says dollar value. So we're going to click on fixed decimal numbers. So you see everything got transformed into dollar. This is actually year. So we're going to say here, this is, we can keep them as whole number, all right? 1, 2, 3. So now my years are transformed into whole number, and my IMF forecast is transformed into dollar value. So now I can sort them and say sort descending. So now, you can see all of my GDPs are sorted from largest to smallest. Actually, largest to now, because when they are gone, then now. All right. Okay. Any questions, anyone, on what I have done so far? Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, keep rows. We have done remove rows. You can say remove top rows. I'm going to say keep rows, keep top rows. And I want to keep how many rows? As I said before, 25. So I'm going to say 25 and say OK. So if I do that, you're going to see that I only have 25. And in 24 is Bangladesh, right? So Bangladesh has 24th largest GDP in the world. There are 200 countries because our population is so high, even though our per capita GDP is low, we are actually 24th largest economy in the world, from the GDP perspective, bigger than some countries like in Europe, because they are the small countries, but their population is less, or their gross domestic product is less than ours. All right. So with that, we actually got what we needed. We got 25 countries that have the highest, and I'm going to apply that, GDP in the world. Okay. So now you see from uncleaned data, right, where we had a lot of issues, to some very clean formatted data, and all these were removed as well, because we selected 2025. We actually got rid of all of these rows that didn't have a year or that didn't have a value. So we actually filtered some of that, and we got rid of some of that. Now if we go back, and you can also actually change the name. I can say top 25 GDP. All right. Top 25 GDP, it's saved. You can see when you change the name here, the name actually changes here as well. And all this transformation, all these, queries that I have done, they are all steps. These are all actually listed here on the right hand side. All right. Any questions, anyone, on how to clean data? Okay. Now I'm going to click on apply and close. If I do that, I go back to my, my file. So this is what I have now. This is my data. I have 25 countries and their GDPs and their IMF year and IMF forecast. And what we're going to do with this, let's create a simple, what kind of chart should I create? There are many different charts we can create. Let's create like one with columns. Okay. And in this column, we can bring in our country and IMF forecast. So it will show you. So you can see China, United States, India, Russia, all these countries and their GDPs, and Bangladesh right here. You can also bring in other charts like a pie chart. Okay. Because, so quickly. So because I had that chart selected, I had clicked on the chart. Now anywhere I go, it will actually change the chart. So you can actually play with it as well. Okay. This is a nice chart. It actually shows by area, right? Some of, this, what this is called. Yeah, waterfall chart, ribbon chart, there are many different charts that you can create. And then we can also have the world map. As you can see, these numbers are corresponding to the size, and we can, do other formatting. We can actually change colors and other things, as we have done before. All right. Any questions, anyone, on this? Yeah, show all, we can actually customize the colors. All right, so let's say, Bangladesh, we're gonna, let's say, change it to green, and it becomes green now. And rest of them are different colors. So we can do all these kind of changes. And if you see, same chart, right? If I now go back and click on something else, depending on Azure map is not compatible with this data, you can actually even show a table. You can show like a decomposition chart too. So basically, decomposition chart will show you high value, low value, different, country. So all of these. Okay. Key influences. This chart doesn't have any key influences. Okay, going back to this chart, there is another feature that we can see. If you right click in some charts, it will say analyze. And if I click on find where this distribution is different, I click on that. We could not find any significant difference in this distribution. This is actually coming from the Azure's, the Copilot, the AI. It is telling you that, because this is different countries, it didn't find any significant issue with the distribution. It is just, for different countries. All right. Any question about this one, anyone? And if you actually click on the tree map, it will show you wherever you select. I can create another maybe narrative or some type of scorecard right here, multi-row card or maybe a single row card here. And in the single row card, I can show the country. Okay, and then I can also show their GDP. So I have the country here, and let's just copy this one. And I put instead of having country, let's say I put the forecast. So, both of them will show. Now, if I go back and I select any one of them, like United States, it will show me Japan. All right. So, pretty cool, right? And with that, you can also have the world map too. I just put my map here. And in the map, I add country. And you see the countries are here, right? So any country that you select, it will show you the data for that country. Country, my legend, my latitude, and a bubble size. I want to do the IMF forecast for my bubble size. All right, so the bigger the bubble, the more the number, right? And if I do this, it shows me everything. All right. Pretty cool. So where is all this data coming from again? From what? A web page. Now go back to this, so if anything changes in this page, and if we refresh our model, it's going to refresh that. So now I'm actually refreshing. So when I'm doing this refresh, right, couple of things happening, very amazing things happening, which is number one, it is going to the Wikipedia page, fetching this table. That's number one, right? If something changes in this table, that's going to be reflected. Okay, it's fetching the table. After fetching the table, what is it doing? Is it showing me right away? No. It is now going to Power BI's engine and running all these steps into my data. Replacing value, you know, extracting table from HTML, changing type, remove top rows, promote headers, right? All of these are happening. Then it is going and refreshing this. All these are happening if you just click on refresh. Right? So that flash just happened, the whole thing got refreshed. If any data changes in this page, let's say, maybe 5 years down the road, they don't have 2025, they have 2030, right? And maybe 2028, maybe 20, it will actually now blank out because there will be nothing. So it all depends on that specific table. All right. Any questions, anyone, about this exercise? Is it helpful? Any comments? Anyone? Any questions?
It is definitely very helpful.
Yeah, and the good part of this exercise connecting to a web page is that if you have, for example, a CSV file, right, and you have a new file, you gotta copy it, bring it to your desktop, download it, replace it, all this shebang. In here, you make a change, and boom, it's right there. You just refresh, right, like live data. This could be a portal, right? Could be an invisible web page that you are, posting your daily transaction sales data. It will refresh right then. All right, so that's it for today. For the next class, because it's going to be Eid, day before Eid on 5th, I'm thinking, should we do our class on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? What day does everybody prefer? I'll put a poll on the WhatsApp. Maybe we can, see. But if you
We
cannot
can do
attend for
also
some
one
reason,
thing, Faisal bhai, if
yeah.
there are less people on the
Mhm.
other day on next week, is it possible that instead of next week we can just postpone next week and then continue from Thursday?
Yeah, that's an option. But then we actually gonna be going into, more days.
Oh yeah, one
Yeah.
week will be later.
Yeah,
Okay.
1 week late we're gonna finish. So I was thinking that we can finish by 12. So, we maybe people have planned for the 19th and that week. So
Summer break starts.
exactly. Yeah, that's why. We are gonna do 5 weeks. So everyone is free. And if you cannot attend next class for some reason, watch the video. And then I'm thinking that, if we finish on time, then maybe we can have maybe a meetup or something. And if anyone has any general questions or anything like that, we can have Q&A sessions and we can have discussion because I know, I'm actually doing something, delivering something. You are also paying attention. You might have question when you try to do it by yourself, right? And so we can have some open sessions as well.
Maybe does Tuesday sound reasonable for most? I know it's like mostly people are here. I know Cheyenne is, you know, I know his schedule kind of. I don't know, Sarfaraz,
Yeah, I can do either Monday or Tuesday next week.
Okay.
for which one day works better for you, Monday or Tuesday?
I think Tuesday should be fine. Yeah,
Okay, let's plan on Tuesday, inshallah.
inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, everyone.
Allah. Assalamu alaikum, Faisal bhai.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.